to the premiere show, Leaving the Farm with Tammy and Pat. And I know they're going to take you on a wild and miraculous journey around many different farms of different sorts. And I've been really looking forward to this since we got together and agreed that they would do this show. And I think I'm probably more excited about the show than they are. So Tammy and Pat, how are you doing?
Good here.
Great. Kind of nervous. I don't know why, but I'm nervous. I
know these. Oh yeah, I get it. No, hey, I got to tell you, I could even feel it sitting on this end waiting to come in on the intro, which is something I don't normally feel. I've been on stage vast majority of my life. It's something you never fully get over. Hopefully you never get over it, because if you do, then you're bored. So there's always that little bit of a rush just before every show, and you want to make sure everything goes well and what have you. But as I tell anyone else that is working on radio or whatever, to me it's just you're having a conference call. You're on a phone call with thousands of people, and they're all muted unless they call in, right? So that's all it is. And really, it's just a beautiful opportunity and a beautiful platform to bring the information, especially the information you guys have got, across the airwaves to so many hungry minds out there that are wide awake and looking for the directions of a lot of trails that we've blazed. And that's the joy of doing this, because you do get that opportunity to serve your fellow humanity. And it's a lot more important than people realize, but again, it's just a phone call. So there you go.
Well, you're a hard act to follow, so you kind of set the bar high.
Well, no, I'm not actually. It's just I've done this for a long time, and we all have our groove, and we all sit in what it is we do, and it's going to take a show or two to get your groove on, and don't worry, it'll be there. It's already there. You just gotta kind of slip into it, But yeah. So what are you guys going to be talking about tonight?
Well, there's so many things that have gone on this week. I mean, it's like it has been so overwhelming. I don't know how many people heard about Satan retiring. I mean, that's like something that I never expected here. The war on the citizens is something that's so concerning right now. We watched a citizen this last week, a donor who was, alleged to have done some heinous crimes. Although I believe that's a false flag tactic. Others are saying that this didn't exist. But the bottom line is that he is a citizen. He was alleged to have committed crimes, and he was tried by law enforcement officers, and he was convicted by law enforcement officers, and he was supposedly executed by law enforcement officers. So something needs to change here. I was very, very concerned that citizens did not rise up. They did not surround the privateers. I was very, very concerned that in the mainstream media we didn't see other citizens that were rising up to protect him. He had stood up against the corruption of the LIPD. He had stood up against the cops. He had done so many things that the citizens need to realize, on their behalf. And here he is, public enemy number one. And something's got to change here. Come on, this could be any one of us. I'm standing up. Kate's standing up. Pat's standing up. There's so many people that are standing up. And all it takes is one time that they falsely accuse us of something, and we become public enemy number one. And the citizens rely on the media to tell them how good we are or how bad we are. Now, most people know me. They know what I stand for. They know I only stand for God. I only stand on the truth. And this is ridiculous, because we're allowing other sheep to be not only lost, but slaughtered now by privateers.
Yeah, and one other little poignant thing that I want to bring to the table with regards to the execution of this alleged Chris Dorner. Again, I'm still, I'm not sure how they're playing that one out, in terms of the Hollywood drama and what have you. But the fact remains, I mean, they played out the scenario, and what they did was they didn't just execute someone; they burned someone at the stake. I mean, I thought we were well past that era. Apparently not. But you're absolutely right, Tammy. I couldn't agree more.
This is the same thing they did at Waco.
The facade that they added with the big, I don't know how, it must have gone over, the whole nation, but they made the big $1 million bounty. But it really was because they wanted to capture him. They didn't want to kill him. They made that, it was like ridiculous even watching it because you just knew, especially if you'd read the manifesto. Predominantly, though, out on YouTube, wherever they're showing these staged-looking videos, it looks like they were filming, while they were shooting and throwing tear gas or incendiaries or whatever. It just looked so set up. So everyone that almost predominantly that were posting just they saw the same thing that we saw in Waco. They saw the fake thing. They saw that they saw a murder, basically. They saw no justice. They saw the total execution of someone. And they justified it. And, that's what they do. But people are seeing, even people who are, dyed-in-the-wool citizens, you can't miss the strangeness of these false flags. They're so sloppy.
Right, but they're pushing and trying to see what the citizen will accept. Years ago, 2009, they killed one of my brothers, George Zincon, and what they said was that he wiped out his family, his wife and her friend. Well, then he ran up into the Georgia mountains, buried himself, and then shot himself in the head. Now, the sheeple agreed with this. If anybody wants to Google George Zincon at any moment in time, you will see that his estate is still being extrapolated because they killed him and his wife. They killed his ex-wife. So now the children are being used as pawns, and they're still going after his estate. And it's almost fully extrapolated now. This is the name of the game. This is how they do it.
That's what I would really like you to go into. I don't think the masses really understand the securitizing of our every action and every redirection by these systems.
Absolutely, and it's so easy. You get mom to falsely accuse dad. What happens? Dad's sent to the edge of the family. The court becomes the father. Dad's all the way gone, right? After 4 years of this shit, he walks away. He can no longer afford it. He can't afford it mentally. He can't afford it emotionally. He can't afford it by his pocketbook. He's been extrapolated. Everything's gone. She got the house. She got the toys, or she thinks she does. And what happens? During this time, though, what she's not counting on is that she's diagnosed as something. Depressed, mentally incompetent, histrionic, whatever it is. She has a diagnosis. So the minute she moves him away from her protection and the protection of the kids, she is fair game. She loses everything within 2 years. And it's not only that. She usually experiences death because she's relying on the medical profession or the medical industry based on prescription ability and availability. She's prescribed all of these Rohypnol, Seroquel. These are Rohypnol derivatives. She's asleep. She's absolutely asleep. She thinks she's functioning. She's not functioning. She's forgetful. This is why it increases your sugar. Why does it do this? Okay, and then all of these females are finding out they have diabetes, or they go into pancreatic shock. This is killing her, and she's not realizing it. She's just taking the dope so she can get away from her problems because of what she's done. She needs to realize that she's being used as a use. She is named the use. And this is domestic terrorism. This is domestic terrorism. We watched this week, and the FBI defines domestic terrorism. Title 22 of the U.S. Code, Section 265, 2656 F and D, defines terrorism as premeditated, politically motivated violence perpetrated against non-combatant targets by subnational groups or clandestine agents usually intended to influence an audience. Usually intended to influence an audience.
Wow.
Now, low-intensity conflict is what everybody's going through the courts. Low-intensity operations is a military term for the deployment and use of troops or assets in situations other than war. Generally, these operations are against non-state actors and are given terms like counterinsurgency, anti-subversion, peacekeeping, counterintelligence, intelligence activities. We all know what happened to Dr. King. Dr. King was a blatant target of the FBI. And when they could not subvert him, they could not out him, they could not call him a vicious individual, they could not call him racist, they could not call him a violent individual, and what happened? The FBI had to slaughter him. That was an FBI hit. This is the League of Nations, the Confederated States. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is through the federal state, the Confederated League of Nations. League means a confederated state.
So you were explaining once that the League of Nations is actually the Confederacy, the 13 original states. Did I get that right?
Absolutely, and that's what that is. Confederate means league. They entered into the League. That was the annex to the League of Nations Covenant. The League of Nations Covenant didn't come out until 1924. This is why everybody's been noticing this stuff, through 1917 to around 33. Everybody kind of noticed that little hiccup that we had, and into 38 with the communism, with stare decisis. You have the 1947 National Security Act. People have to realize Hitler nationalized his country. Germany was a republic prior to the nationalization. The citizens are all going for nationalized health care, national security programs, national this, national that. Okay, this is a bad thing. This is Nazi Germany all over again.
But they mask it with words and terms that sound, comforting and helpful policies.
Absolutely.
If we could take off the trappings, if they weren't wearing the suits of what we consider the, uniform of the United States of America, this facade that's been painted for us since we were born, and our parents before us and the grandparents just passed down with all this trust and patriotism. If we didn't have that, we could see this clearly, but we're completely, baffled because people they don't even have time to look at anything other than the TV.
Can I add a perspective?
Sure.
I think there's something, I just finished an essay, and of course when I do that, I'm always in a different space, but you see, are you familiar with the Stanford experiment? I think it was the late 60s, early 70s that they did an experiment at Stanford University where they took a class and divided them into two separate groups. One was made a group of prisoners, and one was made a group of guards.
Oh yes, I do remember this.
Okay, to see how the interaction and the change of the human psyche could be affected. It was a little surprising that even after the first day, there was a fair bit of abuse, and they had to actually stop the experiment 6 days in, based on the level of degradation and harm that was being caused upon the prisoners. And interviewing some of these individuals, there's a point to what I'm getting at here, and I think this is all part of that audience thing that you said earlier, Tammy. Now, this is what we have to be mindful of, you see, because one of the interview students that was interviewed afterwards that had been given the role of guard, 2 months later, you could see this guy was still visibly disturbed. And I'm talking, this is going to be a lifelong disturbance for these individuals. Because what this individual came across with was he could not believe that he was capable of doing the things that he was doing, based on the preconceived notion that he had been given a sense of authority over other humans. And what had happened there was a group or a hive mind mentality that had taken over, which is exactly the same as you'll find in any cult. And I'm talking, a church cult or a cop cult or a politician or a banker's cult, where these individuals start getting into groupthink, where they lose their humanity by donning the costume, if you will, of the role that they are expected to play. It's
and the support of the peers around them.
Exactly, and there was another. It was part of a video I'd seen, and there was another part of it where an individual, same sort of idea, was brought into a room with a group of, I think, 7 or 8 others, and this one individual was the only one that didn't know what was going on. They thought they were just part of a survey, and the other ones were actors. And what the group was shown were pictures of different length lines, 3 different lengths, and then one to the left, that they had to match 1, 2, or 3, which one is the identical length. All of the actors would give the wrong answer. And it would always start with them. So if the answer was 2, the first actor would say 1, then the next one would say 1, and the next one would say 1, and then when it came to the guy that was not in the loop, he's kind of, the camera's on him, you can see he's clearly puzzled at, how can you miss those guys, So he said 2, and the rest of the group continued on to say 1, and of course they don't verify the answer as they go, so there was no sense of this individual getting the notion that he was actually right. So what they did was they move on to the second one, and again the same scenario would play out until it got to the point where I think it was 4 or 5 cards in, this individual started to go with the group because they didn't want to be left out, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here. Right. In that one cop sees another cop do something, and it's okay to get away with it. And that's not something they would normally do. But if they see that 2 or 3 times, then they get into the groupthink. And this is where I think the main crux of the problem lies in people becoming something that they're not, based on someone else's illusion or construct. Be it a cop, be it a baker, be it a clergy, be it a Cub Scout, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. Because once you get into a group, then the group think starts to take over. Unless that individual, I was watching this guy going, buddy, I don't care what anybody else says, I'm sticking with what I see. I will never question my own reality. But therein lies the problem, because in given situations, everyone starts to question their own reality based on, am I cool? Am I with the group? Am I accepted? And this is really what this is a non-acceptance of self with the preference of taking acceptance through group. And when you do that, you have lost yourself. And that's exactly the tool that they have been using against us. And they use the media to excruciatingly painful perfection, manipulating the masses, and to see how they will react. And this is all this is. All the world's a stage, right? So anyway, I just wanted to bring that perspective in to what you guys are talking about. In the essay, I equated everyone on the planet as being part of the humanity body. Like, we're all individual cells. Some cells have certain roles or whatever, but there is one cell in the human body that can take on any role it wants. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a stem cell, and I'm going to be exactly what I need to be when I need to be it. Depending on the situation I'm in. And I don't care about the group. I don't care about the group thing. Of course, it's the whole passion of getting the group to be individual, collective again, instead of this hive org mind mentality. And that's what we're dealing with. And I think, that to me is the most powerful tool of all to use on the masses. So I just wanted to bring it in.
Right, and that's the foundation of leaving the farm. When you go back to the inception of what the League of Nations did by maintaining the original 13 colonies and binding it into a confederated state, the citizen, or res, is the estate. The word colony comes from Latin colonia, meaning settled land, farm, or landed estate. There's 2 words. The one is quell, it comes from, and it means to move around. Okay, so they're reliant on our herd mentality. What the average citizen doesn't like to know or realize is that we're animals, first up, and we were segregated from our nature once upon a time by being told that we could eat certain animals. We could do this, and we're supposedly the fittest. Well, we're not. There's animals that are bigger than us, and there's animals that eat us, that would prefer to eat us because we're slow-moving creatures. We're not fast-moving like a leopard or a cheetah. And so we were prey at one time, and what happened is the psychopaths saw this, saw that we're not very reactive with violence. We didn't really have necessity of weaponry or anything else because we eat seeds and grass and things like this. We're very gentle creatures, but we do gravitate towards our herd mentality. We're herds. We're social creatures, and we like human attention, human interaction, and
you need human touch.
Yes, and they took advantage of this. They inserted us into penal colonies or groups and landed estates. And what that means is that they have to create a landmass or an illusion of a landmass, and that's what happened with the style. It's a style known as the United States of America. A style, S-T-I-L-E, maintains that it's a chain of events or actions. People have watched Schoolhouse Rock, and they've been indoctrinated on how a bill becomes an act. That's all bullshit. These are actions. These are actions against you. Each act is a play. It's an action against you. Each court process is an action against you within low-intensity conflict. This is a war. You don't know it's a war because it's really quiet. Now that you're all segregated, we're not talking to each other. But the most common phrase, the most common icebreaker nowadays is, how's your case going? That's sick. That is sick.
It is sick.
This is sick. It's a penal colony. How's your case going? Not, how are you feeling? How was your day? How's your case going? This is sick. This is sick. And Kate was bringing up a very interesting thing earlier about officers. Now, according to the 1929 Geneva Convention, these are the rules of war. Chapter 6, Article 21, Special Provisions regarding officers and persons of equivalent status. Upon the beginning of hostilities, belligerents shall be bound to communicate to one another the titles and ranks in use in their respective armies, with a view to assuming equality of treatment between corresponding ranks of officers and persons of equivalent status. But, here's the catcher. Officers and persons of equivalent status who are prisoners of war shall be treated with regard to their rank and age. Now, this means that each court officer, you are also a prisoner of war. You are also maintained in this colony. And if you think you're going to be spared anything, you have something else coming to you.
Wake up.
Absolutely. These are useful idiots. This is useful idiot doctrine. You get paid for what you're doing. You got it coming in, hand over fist. This is nothing. Because during Nazi Germany, guess what happened to the officers? Now, everybody saw Auschwitz. Everybody saw the gas chambers and the firing squads. Not a lot saw the little trailers filled with acid that the officers were put into and melted slowly. We need to realize this because very, very few officers and officials made it out of Germany, and those officers and officials were only psychologists. They were not attorneys. They were not judges. They were psychologists that were moved over to our administration to maintain the colony.
Wow. So psychologists, not psychiatrists? I thought that there were psychiatrists that came over from Germany into to work their wiles over here.
Absolutely. Ernst Rudin was moved right over here because he was so efficient at eugenic policies. He was very, very efficient at propagating eugenics upon the sheeple and quietly raising them. And look at what we're doing now. Now, we don't even need the interaction of psychiatry. We don't need the interaction of psychology because we have television and we have commercials. And do you have shaken leg syndrome? No. Do you want it? Do you have a headache? Do you have a headache? Do you feel like getting tuberculosis today? Because we have a medicine for that too. We can give you anything you want. You can diagnose yourself by watching a commercial and running to the doctor to give it to you. It is easy to off you now. It is so easy to off you now, and you're just running to it. You want those prescriptions. You want these medications. I have news for you. Every time they recall a medication, they do not change it. They recalled Tylenol because it was killing people. They did not change its ingredients. What they do is they have to notify you that it is causing your death. If you take it again, that's your fault, not theirs. This is clean hands doctrine.
You know what would be really interesting, I think? I don't know how many people have ever considered themselves the gross domestic product and how that works in this human trafficking system or plantation. Would you break that out?
Most people know what net and gross is. Gross means overall, domestic means of the home, product means product. So here you are.
Domestic means of the home.
Of the home. Of the home. And if you really want to get deeper into this, echo means home. Nom means law. So everything under economics, this is the laws of your home. Ergonomics.
Right, you have it all meted out. Everything's standardized.
Absolutely. And you're indoctrinated to every extent you can imagine. Erg means work. Ergonomics doesn't mean that it's good for your back. That ergonomically correct chair means that's according to the rules of work. That makes you more efficient. It doesn't make you feel better.
Oh, wow. So how you explained it before, I don't know how many new people are listening to you now, but we fill a position in their little system. We are a share of this U.S. Inc., and we've got to, the way they are working us is to exact every ounce of revenue from our potential. And they do this through the 3 segments. You explain it better than anybody, since you're the one that explained it to me. What are those segments, Tammy?
The law is in 3 parts. Meta, which is morality, soma, which is psychology, and veta, which is law. And the production value or GDP value overall is meta, soma, veta. You have taxation and consumption. Morality, you feel bad if you don't pay taxes, right? This is picking at your morality here. Taxation and consumption. You got to be that productive member of society, right? Product.
Right. Pull your share, yeah.
Absolutely. You got to be productive if you're a product on a farm. That is the meta concept. And then you have medicine, psychology, and death, which is soma. Then you have the legal implication, which is criminalization. There is only 1/3 in each. There's 1/3 of the overall GDP value is in taxation and consumption. 1/3 is in medicine, psychology, and death. And 1/3 is in criminalization. So you wonder about you being falsely accused of something, and this is a fluke? No, it isn't. This is policy. You are determined to be falsely accused. Your false accuser was engineered. She's socially engineered to falsely accuse you. All it takes is a little bit of pressure from little change agent or principal. These are principal agent games. This is a game that you're in. You're on a farm. This is how they move you into the chute.
Yeah, so this recent, since 2008, maybe a little before, where all of the jobs were completely pulled out from under the majority of 50 and older, people who were in the protected category, where a corporation couldn't fire a person without real cause, but they took the opportunity, just because of the masses, to offload all of their senior staff throughout the corporations. And now it's been, 6 years? Most of these people are still unemployed. They've run out of their unemployment insurance, and at the same time they got blasted with the foreclosures, the fraudulent foreclosures. So, I mean, if that isn't an intentional destruction and raising, I don't know what is. Because they also, at that point, hit you with the IRS, they hit you with the state franchise tax. It's insane.
Right, and they were required to do this. Now, under the ERISA, or Employee Insurance Retirement Securities Act, what had happened was all of your retirement accounts were the majority, anybody having gone through a divorce and having gotten or garnered a qualified domestic relations order, what had happened was your retirement accounts went into each municipality. Under RESA, the original trustee didn't have any more trustee status, and so these monies all went into the general funds of your municipality, which is your local county. And what had happened was they decided to play with this. Although this is bank fraud, they took these monies and they started generating lots and lots of loans off of them. Okay, in order to generate the revenue or pay that back, you have to be made sick. You have to be falsely accused. You have to go through long-ass divorces, or you have to be killed. And the easiest thing to do after you have a qualified domestic relations order is you already have an ex that hates you because you've been divided and conquered by the attorneys. And now the ex that hates you does not care about you dying because, this is animosity. Satan divides for a reason. And once you're divided, she believes in the qualified domestic relations order, if you get yours out, you'll find that the female is usually designed as the surviving spouse. Well, once the male dies, she gets to find out that she's not a spouse anymore, although it's written into a divorce order and she should know from the inception. But this is a game they play. So after he dies, usually from, quote, suicide, which if you look at the suicide rates in the United States right now, it's 35,000 people a year. 35,000 males a year are committing suicide in the United States. This is surprise-assisted suicide, by the way, and he doesn't know he's going to commit suicide till he hears the hammer click back on that gun or whatever else is happening. He's being murdered. But the reason for this is those monies. The county cannot let go of those monies. They have garnered loan after loan after loan on them, and they need those death derivatives from him, and they need her to go back through the court process so that she spends more than she would have gotten as to the retirement to find out she's not getting shit because she's not the surviving spouse. She is divorced.
So that's the law merchant at work.
Absolutely. You purchase everything from these attorneys. The law merchant is selling you laws, selling you rights, selling you benefits, and you're garnering all of this stuff because, as a citizen, you deserve all this. Well, I have news. As a beneficiary, part of your benefit is to die slowly through the medical industry. Part of your benefit of being a citizen is to go through the criminal process and be falsely accused. Part of your benefit.
Shut up and take it.
Absolutely. And what this is engineered to do is maintain corporate welfare under the first and second welfare theorem. And what you're doing is you're producing so that you maintain the corporations on welfare. While you're pit against each other and people are telling you, well, this woman's on welfare, this one's on welfare, that is nothing. That is a drop in the bucket. It is nothing, absolutely nothing. Your productivity is to maintain corporate welfare, and you need to look the other way. Stop looking at each other and look at what's actually happening.
Oh, that's the trickery they have played on us to make us afraid of each other, turn against each other, lock ourselves away, and do their bidding when they, like with Dornan, where they were calling for all the citizens. They tried to make it look like he was a threat to, anybody, everybody, not just the dirty officers that he was naming, so that we would all jump in and, do the work for them, just like they tried to get us to, if you see something suspicious, tell. Don't, nothing's too small.
Absolutely. And, by the way, Hitler called that informing.
Informing, right? Well, they
informing.
Have to make this. We, as good citizens, we have to care about this national security. And, sheesh, if my neighbor looks funny or, does a certain thing, I'm supposed to tell on him.
Absolutely.
I got a piece of mail from my neighbor the other day by mistake. This summons or something. It's like I just sent it back. No such addressee. I'll do him a favor.
Right. Maybe you saved your neighbor. It looks like we have a caller on the line. Caller, you're up. Hello? Oh, maybe they're just listening.
Yeah, you'll find that more often than not. So no problem. Carry on.
So many things. As it turns out, with these episodes that hit our news screen, week after week now, it's like you look at these things and none of it makes sense. There's 500 different stories, and so many people are they buy into it. But more and more, the average person is actually seeing the thing. They're seeing that there's something aberrant in there.
Absolutely, and in order to stand natural law, they have to tell us. And that's what's happening more and more now, is because they're not getting the same shock value out of the Sandy hoax and the Aurora hoax and now the Dorner hoax and what have you. Again, it's about getting people to look where they want people to look. It's a sensationalized story, and it's got all sorts of drama and everything attached to it.
Big passion play.
Yeah, and while they're distracting, down in L.A., what's going on in New York? That's what I'm wondering.
That's what you were saying, and it made me think, what kind of executive orders coming through? Who's, sleight of hand trick?
Oh, yeah.
Don't look over there, look over here.
As soon as you start seeing how the magician really works, you go, I'm not buying that trick anymore. And you're right, Pat. More and more people are not buying into it anymore. And they're looking at it, and what it is it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to make someone catatonic, who obviously is never going to awake, and it's going to make those that are on the verge start to really, question. And again, this is a war on for consciousness. This is not a physical game, and this is where I have been for so very long, going, guys, don't buy it. If they can get you to create that. It's like using. They'll tell some through the Weather Channel, they'll say there's a storm coming, and they'll mock up this thing on the on the TV to look like a storm. Next thing you know is you have all these people believing there's a storm coming in, and then of course they have the HAARP array, and they can actually tunnel that energy. And we saw for a fact.
These are things that people don't get in the masses yet, but it's coming.
It's coming.
People are waking up for sure. For sure.
Absolutely, and this is what's supposed to be happening. Here we are, we're human, we need to be with other humans, be light, be enlightened. We have another caller, area code 404. You're on the line.
Hi, it's Cynthia. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Hi, Tammy. I am in Georgia, and I have been adding you on Skype, and I think Oregon Shout. Maybe I hadn't done that one yet because I just got a message from Terry about I need to friend you there. I'm trying to get in the Skype classes.
Okay.
We're friends on Skype. Now I have you on Skype, but I just cannot seem to find the classes to go into. I'm almost sure I'd be in your boot camp beginners class.
Right.
I have not found my documents right now.
Okay.
And I really want to.
What is your Skype name?
Cynthia Renee, or I think on there it may be Apprentice 241. Either Cynthia Renee. I've done it. I have two. I mean, when I filled out the Skype, I had to download it to my computer. So when I filled it out, there was two different ones. I think what you would see would be Cynthia Renee, but it could be because my site name I used Apprentice 241.
Right, and I found you. I put you in the class.
Okay, and how do I get? I'm sorry, I know this sounds crazy, it's trivial, but I can't.
It's okay. Over on the left, you'll see a tab for contacts, and you'll see a tab for recent. And go ahead and look in there, and you'll see the room is all lit up now because I've sent you a message.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I really want to get in your classes. I love you. You are so great. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I love you. I love your brilliant mind.
I love you too. Thank you for being.
And I will thank you for being. And I'll let y'all go so you can finish this because this is great. I don't want to use any more time. I really just want to get in the classes and do it like that. I don't have any other questions. But thank you so much. Thank all of y'all.
All right, be well.
Thanks. You too.
Well, I couldn't echo that better. For me, when I heard you first, it was talking about indicting the IRS, and that was that's what got me into looking a few other things. But that's I was just starting my journey actually, and had done quite a bit of reading. And then you were talking about it being a trust and privately held, and that was like, what? What? That just shocked me to death. It took me probably 2 to 3 weeks to really get the concept public-private. Public-private. Okay. Oh, it's reversed. Wait a minute. These are all corporations? They're like companies? God, the legal ramifications of a company is that they have to make a profit. And I thought all this time that they were public entities, that the utility companies and all of that, they were public, entities, and, the money or whatever would fund back into the public. But absolutely friggin' unbelievable. And that part shocked me to death. And from there, everything else you said, just the fact that you backed up everything that you said, because the things that you taught, nobody else had been, I hadn't seen them, not to the degree. Everything else I saw was going to, Constitution and, demanding the Constitution to be upheld. And, you took it way, way back. I hadn't even thought, all my life, at Christmas time, I'd be a kid looking up at the Christmas lights and think, okay, what is this about? What am I here for? And never could I ever get an answer that, made any sense. This, to me, it's like the weirdest sci-fi movie, 500 sci-fi movies mixed together. But then you just realize how much brainwashing, how much subversion, how much blockage has gone on your entire life, and you go through this infuriation stage. You told me that I would go through a few of these breaks, and you weren't lying. That was absolutely the truth. But what comes out the other side is a place of, you realize that you don't, no one can own you like this. No one has this authority. No matter whether you even believe in God or a creator or a source or whatever you want to call this this energy from which we stem. I mean, that's just I could never understand why people couldn't see that. But no matter what you believe or don't believe, you got to know in your heart that no one has the right to own you or, yank you the way they have. And you see how they've done this. And you just opened all of this up, and it's amazing. It's changed everything of my entire life. And to see the power that comes from just the public law that you teach and just showing the bullshit. It gives you a sense of freedom that, it's a graduating thing, because the fear that they built into us from the beginning, and how, socially we're engineered to be afraid, or to, the idea of ever saying no or not answering when a cop, asks you something. Those things never really enter into your mind until you realize why, this guy he's a pirate. He is a privateer. He's out looking to contract to make, generate some revenue, and it's voluntary. I don't have to do this, although you're dealing with some psychotics in there that you want to judge what you say and pick your words carefully. But I just want to say thank you from my side, and I think this can be echoed many, 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 many times by those who have found your process, but not just your process, the information that you're breaking out. And the hope, I mean, we've been talking about some pretty ugly stuff, but there's, that's not what you're about. You're about the cure, not a remedy, the cure.
Right, and everybody's thankful for me, but we have to understand what we are. And the female is the use, and the use relies on the life. I don't live without you. I don't live without other human beings. Otherwise, I'd be a fluke. I'd be a speck, and I wouldn't be here. And the word power, that word is what subjugates everybody. And everybody needs to realize that power can only be vested. We're vesting power in Congress. It says it right in the Constitution, power is vested into the Congress. And what's happening is that at this moment in time, we're divesting power. And when you look at the rules of war, specifically the 1929, again, Geneva Convention, Article 2, prisoners of war are in the power of the hostile power, but not of the individual or corporations who have captured them. And what people need to realize is that you are under the authority and power of Congress until you divest that power and authority. That's yours. You are the authority. You have to divest that power and stop asking them to represent you, because that's all they're doing. They're representing you. You are a share of stock in the United States Incorporated because you vested power in Congress. You vested power in Congress, who maintains that they're the League of Nations through the Confederacy of the League of Nations, through the Articles of Confederacy and the League of Nations covenant that followed that annex. And once you realize that you can divest power, you are the authority. Hold them accountable. They're not going to harm you. You are the patriots. You are the guns. You are the thing that runs our military. You are the military. Stop patronizing it, and it goes away. It's top heavy. Take its revenue. Stop showing up in court when you get a summons. Don't say you're dead.
Absolutely.
Send it back like your neighbor did for you. I mean, that's a godsend. You sent back a summons. That's a godsend. That means, oh my gosh, another individual is not being prescribed or subscribed or inscribed by the courts. And that it's so imperative for people to realize power, that word power, it is given by you. It is granted by your authority, invested inside of another or into another. And all you have to do is divest it.
I mean, when you really think about it, it is a war, and they have called us the enemy. And, we, people in general, think of themselves as, we're citizens. We have rights. Our government would never do this to us. This has to be a fluke. And it's just amazing when you realize all the things that have been done, and you've always said it, it's all written. And when you read it, it's just mind-blowing. It really, it's hard to fathom that there are psychotics that really think that they can own people, that this planet is theirs somehow, and that they can just determine, who's going to get a vaccine that stops them from procreating. I saw this doctors talking about the vaccines and the epidemic of the immunity problems, all this stuff, and it just broke out the history of everything from the polio that first started out when they gave us these things when we were kids in school at sugar cubes. And how in the 50s, these were supposed to be dead cultures, but they turned out to be live, and people died. And it's just, it's gotten worse and worse to where they're saying that, this man is saying that cancer is given to you through vaccine, that all these things that, besides AIDS being man-made, that's not the only one. And, man, it's just, it's staggering. It just really is. The smartest thing anyone can do for their kids is to stand up and just say no. I mean, they can't force you. It's really to I guess fully to protect yourself would be to just cut out of the system, expatriate, as you have taught us with your executor and the forgiveness documents. When you do that, does that actually keep you from being? You're breaking collapsing the SESQV trust?
Or you're maintaining it, because once you have trust in each other, you're maintaining the trust that they've recreated through the process of law. And this, again, all of this, everybody's experiencing is a recreation of life. Everything from the court process to computer technology, this is a recreation of you. It's man-made, but it's a recreation of you, the biology. And everything goes start to finish. Everything goes from the cellular dynamics up to the structural dynamics of a building. This is you. This is life recreated over and over and over again to manipulate, to control, to maintain you on the farm in that colony. And I mean, it's just, it's absolutely disgusting. But like I said, divest power. Once you expatriate, you repatriate into your own house. You are no longer under the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
You know, right now you live in their house. You deal with their rooms in their house. You have a local chamber of commerce, chamber of this and that. Chamber means lower room or hallway. And so you're looking at the recreation of life. You have all these rooms in the house, and you've been taught eminent domain, things like this. Eminency can only be granted by a king. So stop claiming eminent domain. You don't want to be under a king or any other. And just divest power, expatriate. When Lincoln brought forward the Expatriation Act, that was such a joke. It did nothing for slaves. What it was to do, the purpose of it was to allow attorneys, two attorneys to go to another landlord. And so what happened was attorneys can expatriate from underneath the house, and they repatriate under the Bar Association by demeaning themselves. The word demean is 3 words. It's Damien, which means of myself I give. There you go. They're in another house. They're in another.
Okay. Tammy, are you still there? Okay, well, if you can hear me out there, Tammy is trying to log back in. We both got bumped. It's been a very interesting challenge to get back in, so
Oh no, sorry, I was muted out there. I'm talking away, and I didn't realize I'm working off 2 computers right now. So
okay, sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, no problem.
Tammy's rebooting. I got blocked. I couldn't get in for like 4 or 5 tries.
Okay, did you which line did you call in on?
I'm on the 213 line. I couldn't get in on it.
Okay, you need to hang up and
back
call
out.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. The board's still here. I'm here. I just I left the room for a minute and came back, and everything's like, what happened?
Gone to hell in a handbasket. Okay, I'll be back. Bye.
No problem. I'll carry it from here. So anyway, such is the way of radio, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a problem when we talk about. No, you're not losing your hearing, Dazzle. It's all good. That's a problem with this show in particular. Anything that we're doing on Critical Mass platform with outside the box syncretism. Leaving the Farm, Where Eagles Soar, Cosmic Blueprints. All of our shows have a whole lot for the system to be afraid of. And if you're looking for proof of that, well, look at how many times we get zapped. I've been zapped like 3 or 4 times today just trying to have regular conversations with people. So this is not unusual. Pat, you're back on the board. I've got you hot again, just waiting for Tammy once she gets rebooted to get back on. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
There you go. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Thank you. So nice that you're our wingman.
Yeah, it's all good. That's, go figure. The instant I walk away and come back, it's like, oh my God, what happened? The whole thing fell apart.
It was time.
Yeah, and again, it's no panic. We're here, and I'm surprised
Get used to it.
Yeah, they didn't hack me out. So anyway, so there you go. I'm not even sure how long we were off there because I had to go move a car out of the way.
I want to say like 5 or more minutes. It seemed.
Oh, just as soon as I walk away, then okay.
4:57. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not being watched at all. No.
Just a coincidence, as all things are coincidental, it seems.
yeah. It's incredible, this stuff. So, but yeah, again, and we talked about this before in the past, and this is the solution I need to give people. This is a solution, guys. This is beyond remedy. When you start dealing in the not taking any fear bullshit, because that's all it is. You're an infinite God, for crying out loud, okay? I don't care what you believe in terms of what you want to call it, Allah, God, Jehovah, Yahweh. You can call it whatever you want. It is the supreme divine consciousness that we are all a part of, and that we are infinite, okay? And what has happened is we have been convinced otherwise. You know, I've said it many times, you know, what is more powerful than a God? Well, one that can convince another part of itself to doubt.
Right.
And therein lies the true power. So what's happening here, as it's, I call it the ultimate confidence, not the ultimate consciousness. And what's happening here now is people are. Oops, looks like there, we got Tammy back. You know, this is how the system works to keep people entertained and trained, totally oblivious of what is really going on, and they've got everyone so razzle dazzled with, you know, this gimmick and this show and this drama, you know, Dorner and you name it. You know, what was that thing? What's that diatribe that presidents do? Oh, State of the Union address.
Union.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Please.
Hey, Obama, your country's fucked. Okay? There's a State of the Union, and we're here to help fix it. Does that work? Sorry. I just call a spade, baby. And that's a shovel you can take to the beach and make a sandcastle with.
Bury yourself up to your neck.
Yeah, and by the way, you guys know that it's a no-hold-barred show because we stand in truth. Here's the untouchable part, guys. Here is the untouchable. You want to be untouchable? Find a truth, stand in it. Do not yield.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Then, you know, someone like Martin Luther King can take it out. You see? When you have this perfect place to be of truth and saying, I'm not going to yield from it, that I will stand in it regardless of cost. You kind of
the opposite is unthinkable. To not stand? What, to go to your knees? Please, sir, may I have some more?
Right, and it still happens. And it still happens. If you don't stand, it's going to happen anyway.
Exactly.
If you stand, it might not happen. So let's just shoot for it might not happening, you know?
Yeah, that's the way that most people think. I'll just, you know, ignore this and, you know, it's going to correct itself somehow. You know, the worst really isn't going to happen. And they just wait until the hammer comes down.
Well, I got to say, you know, like, when Fukushima happened, that my first reaction to that was, okay, well, it looks like they're killing us all. All right, game on. And really, what it boils down to, I take on the ethic of a samurai warrior, in that before you go into battle, assume that you're already dead. Then you have no distraction.
That's the way to go. That's I mean, first of all, it's nothing. I mean, we have been taught that this death thing is some, you know, heinous, horrible thing, and nobody's actually, you know, looking for it, because when we want all the time we can get here, for sure. And we've got things to do, really important things to do. I personally believe that every one of us on the planet at this time, we're here for a purpose, and it's not a mistake. It's not a shake of the dice. There's a mission here. And the bottom line is, I mean, if you're just going to lay down, it just blows my mind how you can even think of that. I mean,
well, march to a FEMA camp. Go ahead, save them the bother of rounding you up. You know?
It's like, how many more clues do people need? You know, but again, if you're watching mainstream mediums, they're just diviners, these conjurers of words and imagery. They cause people to think, you know, that, oh, these crazy people out there, they're just, you know, disgruntled, nuts, fringe, lunatics, whatever. And so, you know, nobody wants to be called that, so they won't look. You know, I just recently had I was looking at Bob Beck's information on a YouTube, and I saw somebody who said, oh, that's bullshit. It's impossible that something like that could work to cure cancer. This is nonsense. And I just simply wrote, well, have you done the research? You know, why don't you just, you know, stop spouting off and do your own research? I get a private message from, oh, how can this possibly just run off again and everything? And it's like, I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to convince you. You can do your own research. that device has cured melanoma. How do I know? Because I saw it. I saw it happen. People don't understand, and they're so affronted. It's almost like they can't possibly believe this, because what does that mean if it's true that this is suppressed? It means that somebody doesn't want people to, get healed from cancer. There's too much vested interest in the deaths from cancer and the revenue that's made, through that cancer machine. So, a lot of times people really just, they kind of wonder, but they don't really want to know. I've had people actually say that to me. No, I don't want to know.
Well, yeah, they're comfortable in their lazy boy, sitting there sucking back their aspartame poison Diet Coke and munching back their monosodium glutamate chips and grossly obese, and bitching about the politician they just voted for not doing what they're supposed to do because, well, geez, stupid.
They're on psych meds, and so many people on psych meds. So many people addicted to opiates. Why? They give them out like candy. It's just, these doctors. I have a doctor that I go to, thyroid. I have to get natural thyroid through him, of course. So I take my opportunities when I'm there, and I'll ask him straight up about different things, and well, how could that be? Well, how could that be? And then I actually showed him the device. He's like, what, really? Wait a minute. I go, well, why do you think that this couldn't be? Well, they didn't teach it in medical school. I go, do you ever think that there might be a reason why? And he's like, huh. So, there are doctors that have been so completely indoctrinated that they believe that only what is offered through medical school is the, any kind of possible righteous answer. But there are those who will listen and those who will actually think. I was telling him about one of the brain tuners and how it will stop opiate addiction, and he was like, are you kidding me? What? And he said, well, wow, I might be interested in something like that. It's like, he wants somebody else to do the work for him, and then, show him this thing, and then what he's going to charge. I don't know what he would charge per treatment for this thing, but there's just so much amazing stuff out there, and it just frustrates me. It just frustrates me that people are so, they won't even consider it. They would rather just keep going back to, the pill mill.
Yeah, I was just going to, jump in there. You made a very, very poignant statement with regards of how much I could get for the treatment. Okay, well, here, let me put it in real terms for the doctors. Okay, what you're telling someone is that you can heal them and that their life isn't worth anything until you're paid, a couple $100. At what point does your own humanity reach down and say, I can save you and I will because I can and I want to? Right. Don't worry about it, because maybe one day you're going to pull me out of the lake when I fall through some ice. Again, these are the seeds, the weeds that the system plants. It's planting a field of ragweed expecting roses, and of course, we all know what happens when there's too much ragweed around. You get an adverse reaction to it, and that's what we're dealing with here. And it is cognitive dissonance. And again, doctors, they get so ingrained with the playing God role, thinking that every treatment comes in a pill. I can solve that. I'll just draw this. They don't have to do any work. They get told that it does this, this, and this, and they prescribe it, and they're well funded. And Tammy had it nailed with the third, and the third, right?
Right.
It's just the basic concept of production, and everybody living on the farm needs to realize this. If you want to be farmed, that's great. You're gonna have to get out of our way though, because I don't like being farmed. I've got feedback again.
Are you getting feedback on your Skype? Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we'll just keep her rolling here. There's the biggest issue that the system is facing right now are people like us and those of you that are listening. And I will tip my hat and do a polite curtsy for you. Thank you so much for being awake enough to tune in. These are the days that we have to awaken. Because if you don't, as Tammy put it so eloquently, you're going to be herded and you're going to be farmed, just like every other animal on this planet. What makes you think you're any different in the eyes of those that are so psychopathic, that have been so degraded to such a level that they need to feed and parasite and vampire, literally, in all ways, and I'm talking in the ether as well, of the most beautiful life forms. I mean, it's mind-boggling, why people. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for someone to come kick your door in? I mean, I've experienced that, and I'll tell you right now, it's not fun. It's not fun at all, especially getting kidnapped at gunpoint. That's not fun either. And what we're trying to do is to save you that experience. If you want it, then by all means, stay on the course you're on. Do nothing. Just sit around and wait for them to come pick you up for the FEMA camps. And that way they have you in a factory environment where you can live out your days the same way that a chained calf does, getting milk fed for slaughter, and that's really what you're asking for. You're actually not asking for it. You're demanding it by your inactions. And it's time to stand. It takes such little effort, really. Get off your knees.
It just reminds me of that, I guess it's like a poem or something, but it came, first they came for the Jews, then they came for the Catholics, but, I didn't do anything because I wasn't a Jew and I wasn't a Catholic, and then finally they came for me and there was nobody left to help me. I mean, at some point, the numbers go down the line and your number comes up, and these actions will come against you. Most people sitting here, they're employed, they're working, they're, playing tennis and whatever they're doing and watching their, sitcoms and Sopranos, whatever, and, life is just its little merry-go-round and everything seems fine, but one day that knock will come. And it seems to me that it's those who've been hammered once, twice, or a few times that finally start digging around saying, wait a minute, this isn't normal. Something's really wrong here. That's pretty much what happened in my world, but I also had a very persistent friend who kept sending me, of all things, these Alex Jones links, and I was like, okay, I'm not, stop this. Stop. I'm not listening to this stuff. I already, that fear and the fear-mongering, and that put me off. But he wouldn't stop pushing, his little emails and stuff, and I finally said, look, if you really think, we had long discussions and all this, and yeah, I actually voted for Obama the first time. I'm just humiliated. But, that's where I was. I just thought, well, hope, change, God. At the final point, I couldn't justify what he was doing anymore. It's just like, okay, that's where you finally, the cognitive dissonance, it breaks off, and you look, okay, something is really wrong. And when I started doing the research without any, I wouldn't take his links. I said, just give me the keywords, and I will do the research. That's when I found more than I could handle. That was, that was the beginning, and then Tammy brought me to the next level, further beyond than I had ever expected. But I think that if, people get tired of talking to people who want to put them off, I mean, a lot of times it is just the dripping of information. You never know where a person's at, and until they're in the right frame of mind, or maybe have been, hit with a IRS audit notice or something, levy on their account, garnish of wages. They have suddenly their kids are up for grabs because somebody has reported them as abusive, some anonymous thing, and you've got the happy state workers coming in to, kidnap your children. And, it's sometimes, unfortunately, it does take the hard lessons to get through to people.
Right. Well, that's a human behavior. if nothing's happening to you, you're not going to go seeking help. You know, you're not going to go seeking help until something's happening and you find yourself in the chute. And we have another caller, area code 410. You're on the air. Hello? Area code 410? Nope, maybe they're just listening. Earlier, before the technical difficulties started to occur, we were talking about to return, and this means to go to another landlord. The Expatriation Act was maintained for attorneys to go over to the bar, and it had nothing to do with you citizens expatriating because you never went anywhere until now. In the forgiveness and executor docs, what happens is you're expatriating out of the House of Representatives and back into your own houses. You're divesting power out of the House of Representatives. You're no longer going to be represented. You can you just take the power. And again, we were speaking about this before, the big word, power. Power can only be vested. You vest power into Congress, divest it. And we have to get that through our heads. We're shown all these different colors, and we know about color of law, color of this, and people aren't aware that red things put us into fear. Red clothing indicates a position of power. Black robes indicate some kind of position of power. Red on a flag indicates some position of power. And people are looking at that flag and they're being patriotic to that flag. Those are bars on a flag. They lay on their sides. You've been captured under it. These are pirates. You've been captured under that flag that you look up to and you pay patriotism to. You have been captured. The documents known as court documents have a case caption on them. That is the document that captures you. You have to get out of the mindset that you're not living, first of all, you're not living in a geographical state. The United States of America is a word. It's a style. It's a chain of events. Actions. They are actions or a chain of events leading up to an end. An end. Okay, these monsters are facilitating eugenics. You live on a farm, in a colony. A farm is a colony. The original 13 colonies. These are penal colonies, farms. And the League of Nations owns this. The League of Nations and the Articles of Confederation. And all you have to do is divest power out of Congress. Originally, they got power based on a contract called the Constitution. That did not apply to you. It is Article 1 through Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. That is the end of the document. The rest of the Constitution was to be commentary. That Constitution bound Congress. You gave them power to do what you needed to have done. They did not do it. They abrogated the contract with the Articles of Confederation, and now you find yourself here, prisoners of war, under corporate governance, under the power of the League of Nations. Divest power out of Congress. Make sure that you're holding them accountable for abrogating that contract, and you're holding them accountable for the human trafficking that they've maintained since they abrogated that contract through the Articles of Confederation and the League of Nations Covenant. This is all. It's not that hard. Just stop watching The Simpsons. Stop watching Family Guy. Stop watching these soap operas and realize what television programming is. You are watching television programming. You are being programmed. Now, today I was listening to another show on RBN, and it was interesting because Stat Miller was on there. He was speaking about new laws and new bills that they're going to pass and everything else. They're going to take more of our rights and benefits and all this stuff. I stopped for a moment because now they're trying to vilify us at a higher frequency. And what's happening now is that they're going to push some new laws about spreading, quote, conspiracy over the Internet. Now, you go back to their contract, which is the evidence of their crimes, which is the Articles of Confederation. Put that on evidence. That is not a conspiracy. That is a contract. These are business partners. They've contracted to facilitate and promote and act upon human trafficking. Now, we were speaking earlier about the national state versus the state. Anything that's done in accordance to national security against state security is called espionage under U.S. code. This is espionage.
Okay, you're saying state versus estate. Could you break that down into more common terms?
Well, you are the state. You are adhering to.
Is there a boar in
law.
your house?
Yeah.
There's a boar in the studio. I heard a grunt.
Yeah. Rocco is stretching. He's got his earbuds on, and he's not hearing me on the show, so he's stretching. And oh, I guess he can hear me.
I'm on another show.
Oh, he's on another show. Apparently, I'm not that popular with Rocco.
That must be some interesting show.
Oh, he's listening to his girlfriend, so I'll forgive him this time.
Right.
No dunce cap for Rocco today.
So state and state, you were saying, you're talking about the human being being a state.
Right. The United States is actually the United States of being. And what happened was everybody's taught this word capital, and they really like capitalism because they don't understand what that damn word means. Capital, it means head. Capit means head. Capital is the profit derived off of the human head, and capitalism is a tool to do that. Okay, so what happened was when the little u and the little s from the United States got capitalized upon, that means that they're capitalizing on you. That is a function. It's a banking term. You've been capitalized upon. And originally you were the lowercase u, lowercase s, United States of being. And you asked somebody to represent you, and they did. At this time, you're all stock in the United States Incorporated. Yay! Okay, we got to get out of that, and this is what the forgiveness stock is. The forgiveness stock obliterates that stock. It obliterates that stock, writes it out. And then you come back.
One way to make them go broke.
Absolutely. And what happens after that is you need to come in and claim that estate. This is you. This isn't somebody else's property. You need to make a claim on your estate with the executor doc, and that's what you're doing. You're coming in and you're saying, no, you're not going to traffic me anymore, and I'm really not liking living on this farm, so I'm leaving the farm. And you can make that decision. You have free will. Everybody has free will. Except for now, with the sheeple not standing, they're actually imposing upon my free will because they're making me stay here.
Yeah, convenience.
Absolutely, and that's the human ease. That is the human ease. If you want to go to the other daddy, that's great. Eventually, you'll be deported wherever you need to go. It won't be around me because I don't like being farmed. I don't like being slaughtered. I don't like my family being slaughtered. I don't like being a death derivative or a revenue stream or a QSIP number or a Social Security number or anything other maintained by the League of Nations in order to generate monies for the League of Nations for Northern Holdings and Trust. If you put in your mind, if it makes it easier, the original 13 colonies, picture that as a bubble. You're in a bubble. And what's happening is they've engineered everything around that bubble. The 1789 Judiciary Act engineers every court in the United States, or what you know as the United States. The revenue streams go into those courts. Read that act, 1789 Judiciary Act. And what's happening is that if you go to court in Maricopa County, Arizona, for example, on a specific day of the year, you're not in court in Arizona, you're in court in Massachusetts or Connecticut or South Carolina or wherever, according to the 1789 Judiciary Act. This is a way of generating money into that little bubble, the original 13 colonies. And part of that is the SUK Trust. And those are named the Massachusetts Land Trust. And this is all written. Google it.
Massachusetts Land Trust, that's the IRS?
This is the original SUK Trust. So the monies that are generated off of your back are going into those trust accounts, and a lot of people they don't realize that they're doing all this UCC stuff, and Uniform Commercial Code is only the law, Marchant. It's the thing that sells you stuff. So it's going to sell you a whole bunch of bullshit, but if you make a claim on that stock, it belongs to the United States Incorporated until you obliterate that stock and you get yourself out of that. And so
anybody trying to tap into their stock, that's not a very smart thing.
Absolutely not. Because what's happening now is is all of these people are doing these A for Vs, accepted for values. They're doing UCC1 claims. They're leaning up these judges and whatever else. I just got another client the other day that has 47 charges against them of fraud, and they're charged with intimidation for putting liens against judges and everything else. How do we get out of this, they ask me. I've been trying to teach them, but they want to rely on somebody else. They want to rely on representation. Don't do that. Okay, you have to stand on your own. You have to realize your authority, first of all, obliterate the stock, and start indicting the human traffickers. You've been human trafficked. But do not make a claim. Do not do the UCC claims. Do not do this. You have to get evidence on the record. You have to evidence their crimes and indict them accordingly. Then you can lean them up. Then you can make a claim afterwards. But you need to get it on record first.
Yes. So getting the evidence on record. I think most people, well, maybe not. How do you do that? How do you do that to prevent the attorney work, what a
product
doctrine or whatever, where they can wipe off your evidence? How do you make sure that your evidence is on record?
By admitting the evidence on a court record or putting it on there by admission statements. And what's happened is the attorney work product doctrine has taught you that you can't put that on court record because it's protected by HIPAA or it's protected by FERPA, or your attorney says, okay, we'll put that on as an exhibit. An exhibit is an example, okay? And the first foundational point that anybody needs to realize is that a judge, you know a judge is the thing in the black robe, a judge can only view evidence and rule accordingly. A trier of fact, he can play with examples, he can play with testimony or affidavits, he can play with, a fact can be an allegation repeated more often than once. And that goes right to Joseph Goebbels, and he had said, if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth, and that's what's happening in the court process today. A trier of fact is an attorney in a black dress. It is not a judge. A judge can only see evidence and rule accordingly. So with the use of attorney work product doctrine, what is happening is that you have a trier of fact. You're establishing that administrative process. You're agreeing to it. You're subservient to it. You're in there on your knees. And most often what's happening is you're not only on your knees, your attorney is on his knees in front of you, pleading to the court or praying to the court. So, of course, you have that aspect of praying to Marduk. You have the aspect of worshiping Paul. We don't want to do that. Jesus said not to do that. Have no other father before you. And we need to step back and realize what we're doing. We need to step back and realize.
You're basically saying that by putting evidence through admission, that is forcing an actual judge to be present in your case.
Absolutely, and everybody talks about Article 3 courts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't even apply because you don't have a judge there. You can compel an Article 3 court all you want, but if you're being administered and allowing yourself to be administrated, you have a trier of fact there. You're never going to get an Article 3 court.
Wow. And with your process, we don't go into court. It's administrative.
Absolutely not. And what happens is you automatically get that public law court, the Article 3, because of the admission statements, because of the evidence. And you also compel all of the use of the other laws, 18 U.S.C. 1506, avoiding court record, avoiding or altering court record. You compel that if you have a record. But nobody, until this process, has had a court record because there's no evidence on it. Wow. This is all a game. This is what Shakespeare was telling you. All the world is a stage. We're all actors.
Yeah. The court process is such a joke, just incredibly confusing purposely. And to simplify it this way, just by how you put evidence on is, man, that's a very simple, clear way to make sure that you're in a court of record. And on top of that, just the fact that you don't go in, I mean, that takes a lot of the fear out of it for people anyway. It's all intimidation.
Right. And if you do go into court, you are appearing in front of that trustee, the judge, or the executor as a special deposit. If you appear as a special deposit, the only rule they have is to give you back the same way you were when you came in there. That means you walk out of the courtroom, or you get to go out of the courtroom into jail too. That's giving the special deposit back, and it's in the same condition as it was. They didn't cut your arms and legs off to make you more aerodynamic, but they did hypothecate you.
Mm. So that would be called for an indictment and fee schedule.
Absolutely. This is human trafficking. And once they're aware that we also have a business proposition, then they back off. They don't like doing business with us. Once we stop hiding from them and realizing our authority, they really don't like doing business with us. Our fee schedule is a lot higher than theirs.
What's really been amazing is to watch how these triers of facts just sort of freeze. They don't. They never can argue the points. They can't. It's like they try to trick you.
Absolutely.
Try to trick you into submitting or contracting again.
Right, but as you stand, you will find that the rules of every game are, you're in a game and maybe you're head to head with somebody and they're pretty smart, right? Well, most of the time what happens in a game is that gravitationally they start throwing in better and better intellect. But what you'll find here is that you get the first intellect. That's the best they got. Once you divest that one, it goes downhill from there.
I have watched it.
They're retarded by specialty, and it really does. Yes, and it's interesting to watch because of the compartmentalization that they've gone through.
Yeah, it is fascinating to watch how, in a probation case, they're just frozen. They come up with some crazy year and a day thing. It's wonderful because, if this didn't have the power that it does, and if it wasn't as solid and a cure, there would be a warrant out for a person on probation who didn't appear before them. And so it's amazing to watch this and to see really that all they got is the same old stuff that they've always used. And when you start to become desensitized to the manipulation, the trickery, the fear that, most of us police ourselves. They taught us to do that, to police each other, when someone tells you that you're going to buck the courts, I wouldn't do that, and your friends start pressuring you, that's why you have to kind of be careful who you're talking to, because you don't need any more of their indoctrination on you. But it's a wonderful thing to see how their freaking hands are tied.
And what a joke is. I mean, here they are. If you don't show up to court, they're going to invite you.
Invite you.
They have to ask you, please come back, please enter the courts of law, please enter our church. And what they'll do is they'll throw in some people that might call you or whatever else, because they can't put it in writing. They can't put the invitation in writing. That's just not the way they work, because they work on clean hands. But they're going to call you. They're going to call your friends maybe, or your loved ones, and try to force divide and conquer. Where's he at? Where's he at? But really, there's nothing they can do without your consent. As long as you're not consenting, you're good to go. And based on their invitation, they might use criminal coercive means, meaning that if you don't show up, you might face this, you might face this. Indict them. This is criminal coercion. They're trying to coerce you into the game. Just start indicting them. Put the evidence on court record using admission statements and go from there. And you'll be surprised at what happens. I mean, they really do. They get stupider and stupider as it goes along. Instead of throwing in the intellect, pretty much you got the intellect out of the chute, and after that it's all downhill.
They got nothing.
Absolutely. And it's quite hysterical.
It really is. It really is. And it seems, too, that the longer it goes, there are delays on, trying to figure out what the next move is going to be. When you explain to me that this is Roman civil law, winner take all, it starts to make a lot more sense. And
that's the most beautiful thing. We saw this week again, I hate harping on it. Well, not really, but we saw Satan resign. He's retiring at the end of the month, and why is he resigning? Well, he's got his ass in the chute. And somebody mentioned today that perhaps he's going to go for immunity. There isn't any. We've got the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act that prevents that. Anybody acting under private acts and acts of commerce are going to be held responsible. They have no sovereignty. They have no immunity. Restrictive principle of sovereign immunity. Sorry, real shit out of luck there. And you know, it was a good run. You did what you could. You just weren't good enough.
Hang it up. That's Absolutely. What I think. Seriously, we start going after, you know, police officers, sheriffs, any of these suckers working in the commerce where they're abusing people, and anything that's not public law. You know, but you know, if you do harm, then yeah, you have to make that right. Other than that, you know, I mean, they could give a shit whether you don't wear a seatbelt or whatever. I mean, common sense, of course, tells you that you're not going to, you know, be texting when you drive or whatever. But that's not. They don't care. They never have. It's all about ringing you in, and it's all about making money. So it's, to me, any of these abusers, I mean, I haven't seen anything more, you know, they talk about gangs and gangs and gangs. I mean, that stuff we saw, I mean, that was the biggest, most criminal gang I've ever seen, going after that one guy. I mean, they sure painted a big story, but when you read the whole thing on his side and you see what these people have been doing, and you don't even have to see about these people, these police officers, it's all over the internet, these videos of the brutality and the terrorizing and the murders and just the sadistic nature of these morons. These guys have to be held accountable personally. Make it unpleasant.
Absolutely.
Make it not worth the money.
Right. The saddest thing to see is that these puppets, these officers, you know, of course they're going to be held accountable. However, they are there as privateers by commission, and that commission comes from Congress, the ones that you vested power in. And again, the vest power hold Congress accountable for privateering. What had happened years and years ago during the establishment of this game is, you know, France made it illegal in many, many places to privateer, to grant a letter of marque, and America or the League of Nations, Congress, they didn't agree with that, and they allowed to maintain the letters of marque and to maintain privateering action against the United States here in the United States. This is treason. This is treason. And any time that a privateer takes you into court for condemnation and sale, this is actually evidence against Congress, because they're allowed this authority based on what Congress did by commission. And so for anybody that would like to go up against Congress, start doing that. You can start this stuff anytime. Nobody's stopping you, and you know, gather together. If you're fearful, gather together. But this is all evidence of Congress is doing. This is all evidence of the League of Nations, Northern Holdings and Trust. And again, back to that bubble of the original colonies, the original penal colonies, if you take the inside of that bubble and you put a dot in it, that is internal. That is the internal part of that bubble. And in order to generate revenue from the inside of that bubble, it takes an internal revenue service. This is not a taxing entity like you know it. This is the Internal Revenue Service. And they're generating revenue by taking you into their system and taking you before their courts for condemnation and sale. And this includes family court. This includes probate. I mean, this is probate. Probate is the action of abatement of a freehold. You have an interpleader in there that comes in before you, the heir, can maintain a claim on your estate. Well, the concept is they're getting it all before you can even get there. I mean, you're not dead yet. You're not dead yet. They're taking your assets. They're taking your estate before you're dead. And sadly, you are part of this. Every time that you pen your hand to a mortgage, mortgage, the word mortgage means dead pledge. You have pledged your estate, and if you look on your mortgage documents, you will find the borrower's covenant or the equivalent. In the borrower's covenant, you have allowed your estate to be lawfully seized. The estate is all of your assets into posterity. So what you're doing is you're giving them the access to your inheritance even before it becomes an inheritance, before you're dead. And this is the action of interpleading ability handed down by Westminster Code, which is the United States Bankruptcy Code. Rocco's got a
I can hear it. It sounds like a boar rutting.
Yeah, Rocco's got a sore throat or something. Not sure what's going on
there. Interesting. So, abatement of a freehold. That took... I needed you to break that out. Maybe that would be helpful if you could do that for anyone who's never heard that before.
Yeah, let me get it up in blacks real quick. What it is it's the action of an abater or somebody who unlawfully stakes a claim on your inheritance before you're even there or can garner your inheritance. And the action itself is interpleading ability. And that is the action of probate court. It's getting in between you and your inheritance. And probate court itself is illegal on its face. Holding you on probation, charging you with a crime. A lot of times, everybody knows about the Constitution. They claim the Constitution. But you have to realize that, by abrogating that contract, they have just taken over everything and allowed themselves your inheritance. You're establishing a trustee when you go into their courts. When you ask them to represent you, they're representing you. And we need to get out of all this crap. Stand with your authority. The word authority comes from the word author as well. Be the writer of your book. Don't allow somebody else to write it or tell you how you're going to live your life or tell you how much benefit you can receive by accepting the benefit. The word abator is a person who eliminates a nuisance. Whoops, wrong one. Abator. One who abates something, a plea and abatement, see abatement under plea. And what you're doing is you're allowing your freehold. Let me see. They're removing you the nuisance. Come on now. Well, we were talking about Bex and cancer treatments too. I've got the wrong blacks open. Having a really nice time here.
I just meant to give the idea of what the freehold and abatement and all that. In your course, maybe your trainings, we do a lot of breakdowns of words from Blacks and Bouvier, and to really get the meaning of every word. We've been totally duped. Their little education system kept us completely in the blind, and it's amazing to see what words actually mean and their roots, and boy, it's an eye-opener.
And it's so scary at first, but it's really not. It's just they're using a dead language. You're not really thinking that you're using the dead language. Out of Black's fourth, an abator in real property law, a stranger who, having no right of entry, contrives to get possession of an estate of freehold to the prejudice of the heir or devisee before the latter can enter after the ancestor's death. And what they're doing is that you're always the decedent. You're not dead. You're not alive. But yet you're independent. That was the Declaration of Independence. You require an administrator over your estate, and that's what's happening. The action of abatement is a reduction, a decrease, or a diminution. And to abate is to throw down, to beat down, destroy, quash. And I'm going to get to abatement of real. Come on. Abatement of a freehold is unlawful entry upon and keep in possession of an estate by a stranger after the death of the ancestor. Now remember, you're independent. You've been declared dead after your 7-year absence, after the death of an ancestor and before the heir or devisee takes possession. Such an entry is technically called an abatement, and the stranger an abator. It is in fact a figurative expression denoting that the rightful possession or freehold of the heir devotee is overthrown by the unlawful intervention of a stranger. And this is interpleading. This is when somebody comes in and interpleads on your retirement, or interpleads in a case, or an attorney who stakes interest in a case. When an attorney comes in with interest, that means he has interest in your body. This is prostitution.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's eye-opening. Just how they use children in this. It's just frightening. It really, it's hard to wrap your mind around a whole corporation that pretends to be a country, and it's all franchises. That all they're doing is in every way, shape, and form just using human life, traumatizing, and making revenue off of the misery and suffering of children, men, women. It's really incredible. And to see this, I mean, you've said that we are a negotiable instrument.
Right, and that's what the court process is. The court process under the law is called negotiarum gestio. The attorney is a negotiarum gestor. He's the one that negotiates you with the judge. So the judge is looking at, on his computer screen or elsewhere, he's looking at you, the title. The title is the name, the dead thing that they hold patent on, based on their ability to subscribe you or denote you as a new species of human. That was your last name. Your last name describes what you can do or what you are or whose son you are or whatever else. That's how they hold the patent. They've created you. They've created that legal name or the distress in the first place. It looks like we have a caller on the line. Caller from 810. You're on the air.
Oh, that's me, Tammy. I'm just listening in.
Okay.
It's John over here in Flint.
All right. I'll put on mute. Love you.
I love you too, hon.
It's been an amazing run, and we just got to hold them accountable now for this probate. Probate court is illegal on its face. And people need to realize this. Hello, stop going in there. Again, you can only summon the dead, and they've taught us that we're like magicians, we're witches, we perpetrate witchcraft and all this shit. To conjure means with law. Conjure. And these are the only magicians. Years ago, when people would speak out, they'd burn them at the stake. They also crucified them. As everybody knows about the famous crucifixion. This is what they do to silence people. Prior to that, they fed us to lions when they wanted to stop whistleblowers. Right now, the whistleblowers get falsely accused of sexually abusing children because that turns us against them, doesn't it? Because we have an instinct to protect children. So you have a whole bunch of whistleblowers out there that have been falsely accused of pedophilia. One of the most famous ones started out in production and directing, Roman Polanski. And the first time they gave him a warning shot over the bow, and he didn't shut up. And what eventually happened is they used a product of the state named Charles Manson, and he was friends with Wilson of the Beach Boys. And Wilson introduced him to Roman Polanski, and everybody knows what happened next. Roman's wife and his unborn son was murdered by Charles Manson and the Manson family, and all this shit happened around the religious doctrination and everything else. But the bottom line was that was a target killing, and Roman Polanski was silenced. Later on,
what was he talking about before? What made him a target?
Well, they were all talking about many things, and you had mentioned sci-fi earlier.
Yeah.
And one of the most educational experiences that anybody can go through is watch The Twilight Zone. And they have done many versions since the original. But go back to the originals. There's one of my favorites is Obsolete Man. And in the Obsolete Man, he's in front of the judge. The judge is telling him he's obsolete and he's scheduled for death, and he's begging for his life. And people really need to look at what is happening, what they were presenting. Another good one is the network. And look at the full disclosure they're giving you through the media. They're trying, except for when they're caught trying, their children are slaughtered, like what just recently happened after the MSNBC exec mentioned the $143 billion
lawsuits against the bank. Yeah.
Right, and his children were all of a sudden slaughtered. These are target killings, and it happens all the time on the Mexican border, the border with California and Mexico. The media is slaughtered by the politicians or the ones holding the little charters. A drug cartel means that they're chartered in. They're doing business with the privateers. Cartel means little charter. And so these contracts are with law enforcement. These contracts are with congressional authority by commission, and this is why you're watching the slaughter of the media presence that go down there, because they get killed if they see things. And
you can't
this is the time when we all need it. Absolutely, and that's another reason we all need to stand right now. We can't just keep sitting down. We can't close our eyes and think it's going to disappear, because it will happen to you. I can guarantee it will happen to you. We need to stand now. All is one, and then we take care of this. And we're seeing the movement. Satan retired this week. I cannot speak that's enough.
Weird. That's amazing.
You know, we've had, this is just a new realm. This is a new time, and we knew this after December 21st. You know, it was the end of time as we know it, and this is what occurred.
Tammy and Pat, I'm just going to have to jump off here now. I got the webinar starting in a few minutes, but what a happy note to end on for me. You know, Benny the Rat Singer, you know, stepping down. Of course, Zeus gave him his marching orders with a nice Zeus thunderbolt to the Vatican saying, "Get out." And of course, if you were listening to Santo, lays it out quite clearly as to why the leader of the Petrine school had to step down, because Jew Peter is now out of ruling, and we're into Uranus or heaven has returned. So yes, let's make it a good one, hey? But guys, what an amazing show tonight. So I guess we've got about 6 minutes left here, and at the end of the show, all you got to do is hit end episode, and the show will be ready for download in about 10 minutes after that. But quite an astonishing show, guys. What a way to kick it off. I was completely enthralled.
Thank you very much for your help.
Oh, I'll be here next week, and until you guys get your legs completely. And hey, you handled a bit of a nightmare tonight, and you carried on. So that's all that matters.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, no worries.
I love you, sister.
I love you guys so much. You have no idea. And we'll catch up tomorrow, Tammy. I do want to have a chat with you regarding a couple of things. But guys, an amazing job tonight, and I just want to do a quick shout out. Thank you, Paul and Lisa and the crew of Critical Mass Radio for allowing the platform, making it possible for us.
Yes, thank you.
To get the word out.
Katie, is it too late for anybody to join your webinar, or are you full up?
Generally, I have to get in there about 15 minutes ahead of time. I'm going to be covering an essay I finished today on the webinar tonight regarding at what point do we stand, and you guys have pretty much covered a lot of the concepts. I covered some of it as well earlier, but I'm notorious at promoting myself. As far as promoting shows and other people, no problem. That's why if it was just me, you probably wouldn't have heard of me, but there you go.
I know. So where are you located tonight if somebody wants to join your webinar?
They'd have to get a hold of Maria. It's on Citrix Online. They would have to get a hold of Maria. You can email her at, let me just get, it's for the County Assembly. You can email her. Where is it? Come on. I should have this, like, memorized.
Yes.
I'm so, see what I mean about looking after me? It is, oh, here we go. Oh, no, that's not the one. Maria! Anyway, yeah, it's
so you're talking about Maria Janet, right?
Yeah, Maria Janet, and okay. I'm just looking for an email on here. Oh,
yeah,
here it is.
And our students usually have Maria Janet on their Skypes, too, so if everybody can help and post Maria's contact information if they want to get on Katie's webinar tonight, then please do so.
Yeah, it's kenickes@gmail.com. That's KENICKES@gmail.com. If you want to join up, I would highly recommend you get on it now. And I know that Maria can bring people in once it's started. It just makes it a bit of a chaos for her. but I'll be a lot more. Again, I was just focused on getting you guys sorted tonight. So.
Thank you for everything, baby. I love you.
Love you too, guys. Great job, and thank you so much for standing. It makes it a whole lot less lonely and a whole lot more bright. So it's a beautiful thing. And listeners, thank you so much. Oh yeah, we change the world one breath at a time. So
yes.
All right, I'm being called here into the show, so I will
right.
the webinar. I love you guys, and I'll catch up with you after the show. Okay?
All right, be well.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. So back to standing before we get cut off.
Yeah, we've got like 3 minutes left. Mainly
people can
what we
stand and
do
do things without if they're not quite sure about expatriating, or they need to learn, but they have issues. They can still do public law for those issues, right?
Absolutely. Public law obliterates any private act or act of commerce. It supersedes any law or code or statute or ordinance or whatever else they want to call it. There's a lot of crappy things happening and that have been done upon you within the action of human trafficking, and public law does not allow it. And now you just hold them accountable. And this is revelation. I can't stress that enough. Satan's retiring, according to Satan, at the end of the month, which this is amazing. He's no longer cashing in on it, and keep hammering them. We're doing well. This has never occurred prior to this. When originally, when human beings realized that the popes were the bankers and they were carrying money back and forth, they would slaughter them. They would execute these popes and take them out. Well, eventually, they had enough force of patriotism and armies to go with them. 19 seconds, everybody. Be well, and we'll see you next week. Love you, Pat.
Leave the farm. Good night.